Ever catch yourself wondering how some companies just seem to have that innovation X factor, while others are stuck playing catch up? Well, buckle up, because today we're doing a deep dive into that very question with Paul Graham's founder mode. And let me tell you, this essay really flipped my perspective.
You hit the nail on the head. What struck me about Graham's take is he doesn't just stay theoretical. He gets real, digs into the nitty-gritty of what folks like Brian Chesky from Airbnb went through.
Okay, so for those tuning in, we're talking the founder of Airbnb.
Exactly. And get this, as Airbnb was blowing up, everyone's telling Chesky to follow the classic management playbook, the whole hire a great team and step back thing. Sounds sensible on the surface, but
Hold on, are you saying that advice, which so many companies swear by, can actually backfire? I mean, that feels almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
it does, right. And that's because it assumes everyone's operating in this manager mode, which can be totally off base for a company built on, like, the founder's vision.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right, because when you take out the founder's intuition, that unique way they see problems and come up with solutions, you risk watering down the very thing that made the company stand out in the first place.
So it's not just about being the one in charge. It's more about this deeper connection, right?
Yeah.
Like being plugged into the company's DNA.
Yeah.
And Graham's saying this isn't just like a one-off, right?
Oh, absolutely not. He's saying tons of founders get steered down this road, this conventional management path, and it often ends up hurting their companies. It really makes you think, how many companies out there are just toasting on past successes, lacking that founder-driven push to innovate?
And that's where things get really fascinating for me. Graham brings up Steve Jobs, right, and those legendary retreats he used to hold. But these weren't just for the executive team, were they?
No way. We're talking about Jobs gathering the 100 most essential people at Apple. Engineers, designers, you name it. He wanted to keep that direct link to what made Apple, Apple.
Can you imagine the HR nightmare that would cause in a typical company?
Oh, total chaos. Charts would be upside down. But for Jobs, it was never about hierarchy. It was about making sure everyone was connected to the heart of the company.
So fundamentally different approach to leadership then. It's not about dictating every detail. It's about realizing that each decision, each hire, each product launch, it's all part of this bigger vision.
Exactly. Founders don't see their companies as separate departments. It's all one big interconnected system. Everyone and everything is contributing to one vision. And honestly, that's what gets lost in so many companies.
And here's where Graham drops a word you wouldn't expect, like in a business context. He says a lot of founders are getting gaslit, and not just by advisors pushing the whole management playbook thing, but by their own execs too.
It's kind of a brutal truth, right?
Totally, because those execs are often more interested in climbing the ladder than staying true to the company's original vision.
Right, and it highlights this huge point. You don't have to be a founder to learn from this founder mode. Just recognizing it can give you a leg up.
It's like that feeling you get, that gut instinct that says there's a better way to do this, even when no one else sees it.
100%. Now, I'm not saying chuck out all common sense and follow every hunch, Not every founder is some kind of oracle. Graham even says there needs to be a balance.
Okay, so how do you find that balance? You can't run a company with thousands of employees the same way you did when it was just you and your buddy in a garage.
You're telling me there have to be systems. Someone's got to delegate the whole 9 yards. But it's how founders approach that stuff that makes all the difference.
So it's not about doing everything themselves. It's about how they delegate and why. I mean, Graham even suggests that the best founder-led companies might look kind of weird from the outside. They're not following the textbook.
Exactly. They're willing to experiment, to trust their gut, even if it means ruffling some feathers. Which makes you wonder, if founder mode is so powerful, how come everyone isn't doing it?
$1 million question, right? If we could just bottle that up, teach it in a seminar, we'd all be visionaries.
Right. But it's not that easy. It's more than just acting a certain way. It's a whole different way of thinking.
So how do you tell who's really in that founder mode versus someone just putting on a show, using it as an excuse to be a control freak?
Now that's where it gets interesting. You gotta look past the surface. Is all this rule breaking, this unconventional thinking actually leading to something good? Is it pushing the envelope, making things better? Or is it just creating chaos?
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. It's about the results, the impact, which I think is a good takeaway for all of us, even if we're not running Fortune 500 companies.
Absolutely. It's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about finding that same energy, that willingness to push back, right? Even if it means going off the beaten path a little bit.
And that brings up a really interesting thought, right?
Yeah.
What if this founder mode isn't limited to, well, founders? What if this is something anyone can tap into?
Now, wouldn't that be something? Imagine if we could take the core of that mindset and, I don't know, cultivate it no matter what our job title is, what industry we're in.
Instead of shying away from the tough stuff, we're looking for it. Instead of, this is how it's always been done, we're asking, what if?
Exactly. And we're bringing that passion, that sense of purpose to everything we do.
So we've spent all this time talking about what founder mode is,
Mm.
but maybe the real lesson here is that it's not just about spotting it in other people. It's about finding that potential in ourselves.
So,
So here's something to chew on. What would your founder mode even look like? What amazing things are you capable of if you just break free from that manager mode thinking? Because maybe, just maybe, that's where the real magic happens.